Morning, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. All right, guys. So we're just going to do a kind of a quick video about upcoming summer set in jewelry crafting with trait research. Now, I'm on PTS, so I already automatically have all of the traits researched, but we're going to go over individually how the traits perform, and based on your class and what you're doing, what traits you may be interested in researching first. So research scrolls in the Crown Store are not going to apply to jewelry crafting as of now. So it's going to be the process of, waiting for the allotted time to research those traits. So your first trait might take a day. Your second trait may take 3 days, just like it used to. So that's kind of a very, very important question when you're looking at jewelry crafting or transmuting to know, okay, well, for my character, which traits should I be focused in on, right? Which traits should I really, are going to impact my character development? So that's kind of a couple of things I want to go over today. As well as show a couple of different, static numbers and how the adjustments are looking without my metrics, because I don't have it up. Morning, Robert. Hope you're doing well today, brother. So that's one of those things I kind of want to go over, because Somerset's approaching. It's getting very exciting. I'm really, really pumped about the jewelry crafting system. Multiple reasons. One, it allows newer players to get crafted sets that they don't have, drop sets, and be, effective. And second, it really widens the dynamics of PvP as well as PvE. So whether you're in a group setting or whether you're in a 4-man, a 12-man, it's really going to impact the dynamics of your functionality depending on your role. So I really am really pumped how the devs implemented jewelry crafting, especially with traits. But the question once again remains, which traits are going to be important to you with your character? Okay, so I'm on a mag tune, so I'm on the Mage Blade. And the first thing I want to go ahead and show you guys is I have an infused necklace, arcane. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to transmute my necklace back to arcane. Very simple. And it's kind of a very important thing that we start off with the basics of what we're accustomed to, right? And that's the arcane, right? So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to retransmute this back to arcane. Okay. Now, arcane is very important because it gives us max magicka, right? So it's a resource pool. It's a way to get extra magicka into our pool. Now, depending on our enchantment, things will differ. So, for example, I have recovery, and 1 spell damage currently. So configurations can change, and we're not going to go ahead and sit here and debate about, what's, the best configuration for, damage output. That's not the point of this video today. The point of it is how jewelry crafting is going to augment or change your results, the desired results. So the first thing I want to go ahead and do, I'm going to use all arcane, and I'm going to show you guys what we're dealing with in basic standards. Okay, so I'm going to do a light attack, follow it up with a funnel health. Okay, so you guys are going to see a static light and what the funnel health's going to do, and we'll try to get that to crit. Okay, so light attack weave. Okay, it's a 4-8 crit, 2-8 for 1 base, right? So now we take a look and we go with the funnel health. 5-8, 5-8. Get that to crit. 10-1. Okay, so that's 10-1. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to go up here and we're going to change it to infused now. We're going to go back to the infused. Now, I'm going to go ahead also, and since I'm on PTS, I get the luxury of actually just using this little handy-dandy endless transmutation geonode. Making sure I have enough and I don't run out. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to transmute that now back to infused. Okay, now that's one. Now we'll do two, and we'll start showing some of the differences. Okay, so once again, we're going to do a light attack. 487, 2831. Okay, funnel health. Now look, 10-8, 5863. So we lost damage with one infused, right? That's not to say infused is bad, but with one versus all three arcane, we lost a little damage. So now we're going to go with two, and we'll amp that up a little bit. Now keep in mind, I do have recovery on the other one, so that's going to be a factor. So if I was going to use another infused, I would put it more or less on with an increase. Currently, it's not, but with one and one extra, because it took the spell damage up to 278, right, versus 178. So that is, wait, 179, I think. So 278 spell damage, right? You would think it would have been more. Let's transmute that back. Well, we can even just look at it. So it takes us 174. Now you can see the difference side by side, what we're gaining. So we're losing 870 magicka, but we're gaining an extra 100 towards our spell damage, right? But it's less productive in a single target enchantment. So spell damage isn't necessarily, and I'm running Nirnhone. So even though Nirnhone scales percentage, that 870 magicka is relative to what? Losing out, right? So we're going to lose damage if it's just one, okay? So now what I want to go ahead and do is I'm going to enchant my other jewelry piece. And we'll go back. So I'm going to enchant this with an increase. Okay? I'm going to transmute this now back to arcane. Okay, so we got now two, both arcane. And then we'll go back and test it. And I always do this. I always go with static. You know, metrics is good, but human error can be applied. So we're going to do it again. Light attack. 537 crit, 29 base. Okay? 10-4. 10-4, good buddy. 10-4, 10-4. So, quite a bit of a jump, right? Now we're going to go back to one infused, and we'll do two infused, and we'll take a look. So, 10-4 is what the numbers we're trying to beat out. Okay, so we're going to go back to that infused. Oh, I need more geonodes. That's no problem. We'll get more. Oh, I got a lot of food in there. Let me make sure I'm full. All right. So we're going to transmute that. Now it's 278. Okay, so we get almost an extra 100. Slightly over. So we lost. Weaves look good, but once again, spammable, we're going to lose. All right? So we'll go back up, and now we're going to do two. See if we can beat that 10-4. Now we got 2 infused. So 1 infused doesn't seem to be very beneficial. It's not paying off for 1 infused. That's looking very nice. That looks very nice. Still under with 2 infused. So we're still slightly under. Not much, but just little. So 2 infused seems to be a little bit more worth it, right? But keep in mind what ends up happening too, we're reducing our magic pool too, and how much we can cast. So it becomes questionable, is it effective? Is it cost effective? Depending on our resource pool. So Arcane is really still a very powerful trait. It's still very powerful, right? And if you're new coming into the game, if I would make any suggestions for new players, I would say still go with the basic traits or the already established traits of Arcane, Robust, and such. So because it's still performing very well. It's doing it at a very efficient rate, right? That's important. Now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and do all 3, hypothetically speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and enchant this one with increase as well. Now, this will beat out the 10-4. But we're going to establish this and then use another infuse and see what we get. Okay. If I can get a crit on that. Maybe not. Okay. That looks good. 10-6. So we beat it. So now we're looking at a 10-6. But keep in mind that's Arcane. Right? So we're now going to transmute that. What? Infuse. So we're going to have a triple infuse and see what we're getting at. So we now have triple infused. And keep in mind now, we've upped our spell damage by over 300. Over 300 for triple infused. But we got to beat 10-6. That's our goal. Now, okay. So it's slightly, once again, what? Under. It's slightly under. So the triple infused is still not pushing the Arcane. Okay, so that's 10-6. So now what I want to go ahead and do, I'm going to get more Geonodes, and now we're going to go back to all Arcane. Okay, that should be good. I still like going old school on a lot of things. Okay, so these are all going to now go what? Arcane. Oh. Tribute for tanks gives a boost to all my stats, at least on my setup. It is better than healthy rings persistently. I simply need to reshuffle some attributes. Yeah, definitely. And that's what I'm glad you brought that up, Munster, because it's really cool for tanks now. Like a lot of the, depending on your race and your class and what in your gear selection, the trait selection for tanks is really good. And Tribune, especially with the triple stats, is amazing. It's amazing. And I was just about to get in that, and I'm actually glad you did post that. That's very good. Thank you. Thank you. So we had a 10-6, right? With all infused, right? Now look at that. That is really, really nice for a light attack. But once again, what are we taking into effect? We're taking into effect Magicka. Magicka, once again, helps scale with spell damage. Right? It's the scaling system is there's 10 to 1, but you got to think there's not a hard cap, but there's a diminishing effect to it when you start stacking over without a certain resource pool applied. Hence why stamina and magicka have difference, and a lot of people are like, well, there's more resource pool for magicka than there is stamina, and there's more weapon damage with this. Well, the way it's correlated in its passives is effective, and that's once again going to matter in far as traits go, and how you're going to you use your traits to your advantage in jewelry crafting. So once again, we're going to go ahead. Now, this might not be applied to stamina. And once again, why? Because stamina has what? The weapon damage passive. So keep that in mind. Where we have penetration. 6-2. 10-7. 10-7 on all arcane. Right? Versus 10-6. So arcane, the base ones are still doing very, very well. Very well. So I would tell people, just because we're getting new traits doesn't necessarily mean that is like the must way to go when a content creator says it has to be this way. I wouldn't necessarily say that. It's going to be like hit and miss based on loss. So if I want to use a trait like Bloodthirsty because I want to go ahead and increase my finishing phase. Let's say I have a class and I want to be, or even anything wants to use Bloodthirsty. Would I go triple Bloodthirsty? Probably not, because then my damage is going to suffer dramatically. So we'll start getting into that. Let me go ahead and grab more geonodes. And I'm not going to do, like I said, I'm just going to show you the base value loss. But we'll talk about the gain. Okay. So. And I just like kind of going over this. Right? Because it just kind of gives everybody a breakdown. So we're going to do 1. So we had a 10-7. And we know automatically we're going to what? Lose. Why? Because the 25% increase is what? Under the 20 mark. So we know we're not getting that 25% boost, but it is significant. That damage increase, when you're taking a look at a 75%, is significant if you're going triple. But the damage loss in the upfront becomes like, oh my gosh. So in a 4-man, that might not be as effective as what? In a 12-man, depending on the content. Okay. So, once again, some light attacks. Really still good on light attacks, actually, even with 1 Bloodthirsty. See, 10-4. So we're back down to the 10-4, and that's with triple, right? But it takes our resource pool and completely trashes it, which I have some builds I'm working on. So our magic recovery is, it's junk. It's junk, right? But now let's take a look at infused with what? Our recovery. So I'm going to change all of my traits now to recovery, for example. And now we know my spell damage is going to what? Decrease, right? It's going to decrease. But this is going to be from a stat perspective. So we have 169, right? And when we take a look at our character sheet, we're up to 1460 on recovery. So lately, I've been using a lot more of the Astronaut and resource Munduses. Why? Because I don't have to use recovery as much, right? It's just prominent to do so. Because, versus the double, like a two stack of, up until these changes, 2 stacks of weapon damage was out yielding the Mundus for the Apprentice. So it was like, okay, well, I'm better off using a resource and getting more out of my jewelry than my Mundus. And that's kind of was relevant as far as resource management for spell damage. But for resources, I was getting more from the Astronaut in comparison. So that's why I really enjoyed it. Excuse me. So now we're going to infuse all of these, right? So now look, we go from a side by side, and let's say we were at Arcane, 270 magic recovery. That's huge in comparison, right? Once again, we're losing the max magicka. We're anticipating that. We're anticipating to lose the max magicka. But now our recovery jumps up to 1893. So from a recovery standpoint, infuse is really beneficial to what? Recovery glyphs. So the damage glyphs are hit and miss because the arcanes applied to what? The scaling system. How the scaling system works. But if we're looking at a recovery point, infuse is definitely going to give us what? A lot more bang for our buck. So I always would say arcane and robust is still really good for the damage, minus bloodthirsty. So bloodthirsty is very productive, but once again we're going to lose that damage. But if we're looking at a recovery, right, for our glyphs, that's where infuse is really going to pay off. So if we're lacking recovery in our set configurations, or we're lacking recovery due because we're using max food, or if we're lacking recovery due to not using a resource mundus, this is where infuse is going to give you more bang for your buck. So I will always tell people, arcane really still strong, still fundamentally, one of the better ways to get your resources as well as your damage. But if you want more recovery, you're going to go what? You're going to hit 1 infused, if not 2, if not 3. So if I go ahead and I take that down and say I want, so let's say I go ahead and we'll do a test. Well, yeah, we'll do a test and we'll change out back to the arcane. So we know we're going to lose damage, right? For that. So once again, a couple light attacks. So that's if I can get it correct. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage lost. Not going to lie. That's a lot. So let's say I go now back to need more stones. That's fine. We'll get it. I prefer the base traits myself. I can't change loadout in the middle of combat, and a large resource pool is beneficial in most scenarios. I agree. Totally. Because when you bottom out, that's when things go bad. I totally 100% agree with you, Munster. I totally agree with that. Papa! Doing good, brother. Doing good. Doing well. Thank you for asking. I hope everything's going good with you. Today is going very well. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to arcane on this. So, that's going to give us our magicka. All right? So, now we want to take a look at our resource. Now, I usually like to stay between 15 to 16. That's 17. And we go back to 2 arcane. And now I'm at 1604. That's really nice. That's my prefer like low end between 15 something 16. That's my low end. But sometimes I'll even go up to about 17. Because that's how much magicka I'm getting per second. So I'm getting that per second on a recovery without having to weave up heavy. Now my cost production is I guess, what you're losing on the output can be significant. But when you add stuff like, magic steel, utilities, things like that, this is kind of where I like to be set up as far as recovery point and PvE. Now PvP, I even take that higher. PvP, I usually go about between 18 and 19. And no surprise, we see the damage increase. But 9.6 is still whatever. So I usually like to see about that 10. So, and I'm out of glyphs, and I don't think I have a jewelry crafting station. I mean, I could put one down, that's for sure. Let me get one. All right. Enchanting station, yes. Okay. So we're going to go Rapora. And I want to say it's... That's fire. One way to find out. That's the weapon. That's magic. There it is. All right. Now we can go with the Kuta. This should go. All right. So, now, going back in, we already know. Okay, I want that recovery, right? So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to take a look. And now I'm way under. That's relevant. But let's say I also go back with one more infused. So I'm going to take this nice arcane. We're going to go infused. We're going to get that 2-7. We take a look at our character sheet. Bingo, 1507. That's why like I said, 15 to 16. And now we know we have that spell damage. (9-7), still a little low. I'd probably make some adjustments there. So, like, if I would say if you're a DPS, for example, if you are a DPS, I would still say like arcane, infused, bloodthirsty. Those are the way to go. Now, would you research arcane first? Not if you have it. So if you already have your jewelry in arcane, the first trait you'd want to research is what? Either you're bloodthirsty or you're infused. Then you're arcane. If you're magicka. Same thing with stamina. So stamina, it would be like, if you have the robust, bloodthirsty, infused. You see what I'm saying? Had a lot of fun Saturday night. Need to get together again sometime. Definitely, Papa. Definitely. I had a blast as well. So when we take a look at the jewelry traits in perspective, right? Healthy is still good for, guess what? Your scaling system towards your shield for your tanks. Most of the time, though, all jewelry and sets will have this. So to research this as a primary for a tank is not necessarily a good idea. And as Munsterd said, though, the Tribune is really good for your tank. So if you're a tank and you are looking to get like extra stats across the board, this would be your focus, is trying to research Triune. Not Tribune, but Triune. So Triune is really, really good for not increasing just health, but magicka and stamina if you're a tank. So that's a research priority, right? Because guess what? Your jewelry's already healthy. So it goes what? To the back of the line. So once again, robust. If you already have it, you don't need to necessarily research it. You want to take some of those other ones. Now, protective is very good, but as far as base stats, you might not need that. So if you're getting up towards that 3-1, 3-2, where we're looking at our caps, we don't necessarily need extra protection, right? So once again, it's going to depend on build parameter. So protective, if you're close to having all of that resistance, this is a trait you're not necessarily going to need ahead of time. Swift is one of those. This is going to be like a farming. So this is once again a back of the line trait. It's probably going to be one of the last ones you research. It's like, okay, cool, movement speed, extra 10%, good for capture the relic and stuff like that, and maybe farming. But once again, is it going to be used on a more frequent? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Harmony. Harmony is kind of interesting, right? It increases damage, healing, and resource restored, and damage shield strength of synergies you activate. So depending on the synergies, we're getting the extra increase of whatever the effect is by 35%. To me, this is kind of more set for trials, for, you know, that are organized in synergy play. So this can be very productive in 12-mans. But in a 4-man, I don't feel like it's as productive. But in 12-mans, I definitely see the application. So if you're definitely a trial player and you're organized and you're trying to produce out, if you're a proc player, like say for example, you're using Alkosh to debuff said target, Harmony would be a great trait for you to increase the effectiveness of its synergy, or whatever synergy you're activating. So the damage output of the synergy is increased when you proc it. If you're the person procking it and you want to get a little extra damage for you for being the dedicated, you know, synergy player, say I'm an off tank and I'm using Alkosh. I wouldn't put it on main tank. We all know that. So if I'm an off tank though, or I'm a DPS and I'm using Alkosh and a synergy that's going to be set specifically designed for me, like Liquid Lightning, where it's not going to affect resource pool, you know, or a placement, I should say placement, and they put that Liquid Lightning right on the boss, that's a dedicated synergy for me to hit. So what do I want to do? I want to increase the effect if I'm the off tank of the synergy that's going to be applied. So that's where Harmony comes into play, is more organized 12-man play, and it's really beneficial in that aspect. Once again, Bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty is going to be one of those ones that when do you need this? It's if you want to get it down fast, I feel Bloodthirsty is going to be worth it, but it's not going to be a stacked. It's going to be like, if you're looking at 12-man, you're going to see at least half your people running at least one Bloodthirsty, if not two, so they don't lose out on overall DPS, but yet get the burn phase and get those times down faster. So Bloodthirsty, once again, very powerful, very effective, but once again, upfront damage loss is relevant. So once again, though, I mean, especially when you're in DLCs, even if you're a 4-man, one of these per on 2 of your DPS is going to be very, very good, because that's 50% extra damage. So just even with one, very significant. So very good. So I would always tell people, the base stats that you already have, if you already have it, you're not going to research it. You're gonna see more people research Infused first, Bloodthirsty first if they're DPS. Healers is going to be really good with Infuse. And once again, heavy PvP, all rules are out the window. PvP, you're going to see, you know, all of these being taken into consideration. If you're a PvPer and you have healthy glyphs, you're going to research Robust and Arcane first. Without a doubt. It's just, it's a no-brainer. You know, it's just a no-brainer there. So, really, really good stuff. I really enjoy what the devs did. Now, quick note. Now, a lot of people are going to ask me, does Julianos stack? Somebody had asked me that. No, it doesn't. Okay, so I'm using War Maidens and Julianos, for example. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you my character sheet. Okay. So I have 2137, right, on spell damage. Let's make sure. Well, I don't have these glyphed, so that's going to get skewed. But I'm not going to get the 299. Let's look at the crit value, for example. Crit value is 439. right? So we're going to go ahead and slot the Julianos and look at the crit value of the effective crit value. Now keep in mind this is 2 slots. Okay. See, we went down because it's not stacking. We lost that 3 point something % due to the Julianos. So Julianos and Hundings will not stack. If you're gonna wonder that, don't bother wondering. It doesn't. All right. So it does not stack. You can't stack sets like Julianos, 2 sets of Julianos and expect it to, you know, whatever. A lot of people is this. This time I'm going to clip when we get Zerg ganked. Dude, that wasn't crazy. Like, that was crazy. So server's coming down for maintenance in about 15 minutes, so I'm going to wrap this up. So once again, guys, nothing's set in stone. They can go ahead and they probably maybe make some adjustments. But Infused is still really good. So is Bloodthirsty. They're all really good, like traits, like really good traits. But what I would recommend based on your class, your primary. So if you're a tank, once again, Triune is going to be really effective, very good. It's very powerful. You're going to see your other ones, like to me, Triune, Infused, and Bloodthirsty will be your primary first researchable traits that you should focus in on. Those are the traits that, when it comes to timing for crafting, you want to reap the benefits. Because remember, research scrolls aren't going to be applied. So timing is everything to research for crafting, especially if you're going to transmute, because you have to know the trait to transmute. So if you're going to transmute, you need to know that trait. So you have to go ahead and play that. You have to say, okay, well, I have healthy rings. Now I want to go with robust. Well, that's great. Make sure robust is prioritized. Okay. So let me check this out really quick. Okay, 1 second. I got to take this. All right, I do want to thank you guys. If anybody has any questions, comments, post below. Once again, I just want to kind of do this, kind of do an overview. But once again, Mr. Raven ESO Daily, and as always, have a nice day.